Hey guys, thanks so much for checking out my show. Really appreciate it. Please click to subscribe. This episode, I am digging into a big trial that's coming up in just weeks now. The trial for 17-year-old Sarah Grace Patrick, a young woman accused of killing her mother and stepfather, shooting them to death in bed. And there are all sorts of questions about why this happened and what she was up to after the murders, according to police, talking to social media influencers, bizarre behavior at the funeral, and just real questions about motive here, especially with the trial coming up. I'm going to dig into the case in this episode of Brian Enton Investigates.
Today, we can confirm that an arrest has been made in the case. Kristen Brock's 17-year-old daughter, Sarah Grace Patrick, has been taken into custody.
Hey guys, so just last week, a judge in the upcoming murder trial of Georgia teen Sarah Grace Patrick denied her request of venue change. So it looks like the January 5th start date is on track now. And I'll fill you in on that in just a bit. But if you haven't been following the case, let me catch you up to speed, because what Sarah Grace is accused of doing is just unimaginable, and how she behaved afterwards has raised a lot of eyebrows. Sarah Grace Patrick is charged with 2 counts of malice murder, felony murder, and aggravated assault, not to mention possession of a firearm during a commission of a felony. And all of it is for allegedly stabbing her mom, 41-year-old Kristen Brock, and her stepdad, 45-year-old James Brock, to death in their own bed. And again, this happened back on February 20th. Now, despite being only 16-year-old at the time of her parents' death, she's just 16, Sarah is being charged as an adult. And if the crime isn't bad enough, listen to this detail. It was Sarah Grace's little sister, just 5 years old at the time, who first discovered those lifeless bodies, the bodies of her parents. And that prompted Sarah Grace to call 911. And she is the one who called 911. So the way this went down is deputies responded to the call. There was no sign of forced entry, no sign of anything being stolen, just one open door and 2 dead bodies inside the house, the mom and the stepdad. And it didn't really make any sense, especially since the Brocks and the 7 kids and their beloved family, they were seemingly loved. They were very active in their church community, and there just was not a lot that it seems, and I know from the outside it's hard to tell sometimes, but that it seems was going wrong here. So the investigation began, and that's how this story starts. Meanwhile, where things begin to get a little weird with Sarah Grace, and also keep in mind, she is a teenager. Everybody grieves differently. She's a young girl, but it was strange that she started taking to social media a lot. She posts a selfie on the way to the funeral, captioned, "This can't be real." And then when she is there, she gives just a really emotional eulogy that's also viewed by some as strange. Listen to this.
And I know at nighttime I can go and look at Mama and Jamie in the sky, and gladly they will save me a seat in heaven like they saved for you. I'm sorry. Gladly they will save a seat for me in heaven like they saved a seat for me in this very church. Although there's nothing we can do to bring them back, we still have control over how we treat people with us today. Therefore, when someone tries to tell you anything, no matter how important it could be, just listen, because you never know when it's somebody's time to go. You could say goodnight and wake up a few hours just to find out they aren't there.
And then later, Sarah Grace posts another TikTok video. She's crying in this one. She's asking, please send prayers for healing. And those are just a few examples. There were even reports that she was even reaching out to true crime creators on TikTok, trying to get them involved in her case. I mean, people with big followings, and sending them messages, reaching out to them, and that's now obviously going to become part of the evidence. But the question now, which is not clear, is why? If Sarah Grace is guilty, did she think it would throw the cops off her trail? Is that why she was posting these things? We don't really know. Fair to say, though, that she was a person of interest from the beginning, which we know now. Though it took all the way until July for them to actually arrest her. It was on July 8th, the Carroll County Sheriff's Office finally announced Sarah Grace was under arrest, and they wrote on Facebook Quote, our team has pursued every lead, sifted through mountains of physical and digital evidence, conducted countless interviews, and collaborated with agencies like the FBI, the GBI Crime Lab, and private forensic laboratories. In a world where television portrays crimes being solved in under an hour, the truth is much more complex. Real justice takes time to ensure that no detail is overlooked, no stone unturned. Sarah Grace, alongside her father, she turned herself in, and she remains in custody right now, awaiting her trial again, which is going to be starting in a couple of weeks.
Her family's been very cooperative. I can't imagine as a parent her father brought her up here this morning. She turned herself in. I can't imagine what he's going through, so my heart goes out to him as well. You know, anytime you work a case where somebody's life has been cut short, James is a special case because I believe, according to his family, he had a lot of heart trouble. He'd had numerous heart surgeries. I believe he may have been waiting on a heart transplant at some point. And to have his life cut short when he was given so many opportunities to live, to me, that's a big takeaway from this story, and that a mother and a stepfather will never be able to raise their children and the little girl that was in the home. To me, she's probably the saddest victim in all of this.
Back in August, after what was a very emotional 2-hour bond hearing, the judge came to the decision that Sarah Grace should stay locked up, saying that she is a threat to the public and may even try to intimidate witnesses in her own murder trial. And remember, when you think about intimidating witnesses, it is her now 6-year-old sister who was there the day the murders occurred. And that sister could end up being a star witness, which is very sad to think about a young girl having to do that. But she was the only one there. And just hours after Sarah Grace was denied bail, the 8-count indictment was returned that I told you about earlier, which again are 2 counts of malice murder, 2 counts of felony murder, 2 counts of aggravated assault, and 2 counts of possession of a firearm during the commission of a felony. Now, despite that, quote, mountain of evidence, which is what police say they have, the prosecutors say that Sarah Grace still has a lot of people on her side. Shortly after she was arrested, her grandfather, Dennis Nolan, gave an interview saying he doesn't believe that Sarah Grace killed her mother. So the grandfather is standing by her. Nolan's daughter doesn't believe that she killed her mother, who obviously is the grandfather's daughter. So he is standing by her. He said losing his daughter was hard, but the thought of losing his granddaughter would be 10 times harder. That's what he said in that interview, and that he believes all the evidence is circumstantial, and unless that changes, he is going to stand by her. Innocent until proven guilty, he says. At the bond hearing, some family members were even seen wearing "I Stand with Sarah" t-shirts in the courtroom. But despite all the support, things seem to just get worse for Sarah Grace. You fast forward to just last week, which was basically another loss for Sarah Grace in court. It's what I was talking about right in the beginning of this episode. Her defense attorney filed a motion to change venue because, quote, they said that the pretrial publicity surrounding this case is pervasive, inflammatory. They said community saturating, which was an interesting term, and overwhelmingly prejudicial, such that Ms. Patrick cannot obtain a fair and impartial jury in this county. And Sarah Grace's attorney referenced coverage by Court TV, also referenced coverage by People magazine. But prosecutors pointed out that neither are based in Carroll County, that the coverage has all repeatedly pointed out that Sarah Grace is innocent until proven guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. She's got supporters, just like her grandpa said, and changing venues would not change how the case is being covered nationally. And the court ended up agreeing. And the motion for change of venue also pointed out that online communities that have formed around this case, the amount of attention Sarah Grace is receiving online, which is a little earlier this year, seemed to be, again, it seems like the kind of attention she wanted, but change of venue looks like will not be happening. The motive in the case, which is really the big question here, motive, why would she do this? Still anyone's guess, but there has been some reporting that Sarah Grace wanted to live with her dad because he gave her more freedom. And if Sarah Grace did in fact commit these heinous crimes, all while her 5-year-old sister was home, all for freedom, you gotta think that was a miscalculation, because now she could spend the rest of her life behind bars. And her trial is now set to start, again, just weeks from now on January 5th. I'm joined by Kim Degonia, attorney and former prosecutor, to talk about this case. This trial is coming up now for Sarah Grace Patrick, just in a couple of weeks in January. Motive has been a little confusing here in terms of why it doesn't seem clear why she would kill her mother and stepfather. I mean, what do you think in terms of motive?
Ugh, this case is sad. My best guess as far as motive in the years that I have done this, and I've seen these cases before, I would not be surprised if we hear at her trial that she was being somehow abused by her stepfather and her mom, Kristen, knew about the abuse and did nothing. I think that's the likely motive, the likely defense, and the likely explanation for why this 17-year-old girl just snapped and shot both of them, right? If it was just the stepdad, we can understand that. That's hard trying to integrate, step parents into the picture. But the fact that she killed her biological mom also begs the question, why? And the reasonable conclusion is because whatever was happening, whatever hate she had for the stepfather, her bio mom likely supported and knew about it. And she, Sarah, felt unprotected by mom. That would be my best guess for her motive.
After the murders, there was some strange behavior with her reaching out to like true crime influencers, sending them messages. I think she may have even gone on one show or at least sent messages to one like podcast host. Um, and was on TikTok. She posted a photo of herself on the way to the funeral. Could the motive have been her like somehow wanting this kind of attention?
Yeah, so ironically, Brian, I did think that when I first started watching the TikToks, read the story, I wondered, is this a case where, our teenagers are so absorbed with fame, being influencers, TikTok, YouTube stars? It's a whole different world the past 5, 10 years with teenagers. And it does beg the question, was she starving for attention, starving for fame, wanted the TikTok followers, wanted to be an influencer, and this was a way that she saw that she could become that? It's hard to imagine that the way that she would do that would be kill her mother and her stepfather, because at 17 she's got to know the consequences are going to be you get caught and put in jail, and there goes your influencer career or your TikTok career. So to me, I wonder if it's more of an afterthought that she committed this crime and then she saw it as a way to monopolize and garner fame and maybe sympathy with the world.
If your theory of her possibly blaming like some kind of abuse or something, I'm just thinking if she did that, is there any way, like, couldn't she just say that now that they're dead, they can't really speak for themselves? Like, how would we ever know if that's really true?
Right. And I don't know that her attorney would let her say her story just yet, right? Anything that she says right now is going to be used against her. If I was her defense attorney and that was her defense, I would keep it quiet until the day we got to trial. I would let the prosecution put on their case, and then I would put her up on the stand and say, tell the jury exactly why you killed your mother and stepfather. That's how I would play it. A good defense lawyer is probably telling her, don't tell anybody, keep it between us until trial.
Well, and it is interesting in this case, one of the like not much has come out. Like usually like
Mm-mm.
there's one little nugget of a motive or there's one message she sent to a true crime influencer allegedly where she said a man came in the house, someone came in the house and did this. But beyond that, there's very little out there. So
Right.
I guess for the defense attorney, that gives them a lot of like leeway, right? I mean,
Oh, yeah, because they're not working with multiple statements, trying to remedy these different narratives and stories. It's that one statement, which I think is easily explained in front of a jury. So,
yeah, no, for sure. What about so they tr at the last minute they tried to do a change of venue, saying that there's been all of this media coverage, and the judge denied it,
mhm.
saying, well, there's like been media coverage of this case all over the country. It's like been like People Magazine, Court TV. Are you surprised? Do you think they should have changed the venue?
Do I think they should have changed the venue? Yes. Am I surprised that they did not change the venue? No. Typically, those motions are uphill battles and we rarely see them granted. So it doesn't surprise me one bit that the judge denied that motion. The judge's positions typically are, look, you can voir dire extra, you can do all kinds of different questionnaires for the jurors and make each juror commit to the fact that they've not heard about this case, that they're not going to look in the media. So there's all these other, tools that the judges would prefer to use rather than transferring venue to obtain a fair jury.
Will all of the TikToks and messages to the true crime influencers, will all of that come in, do you think?
Most likely, if the prosecution can prove that it was Sarah Grace who posted those TikToks and she's the one who created them, which I think is going to be where they have a hard time. They might be able to go back with TikTok and have, the person who knows the most about creating and who's behind each of these usernames, if they can get that proven. But I think they're going to have a hard time unless Sarah gets on the stand and says, yes, I created that TikTok, proving who's behind those.
Her grandfather, actually the father of the mother who was killed, has come out in support of Sarah,
Mm-hmm.
saying, he stands by her, innocent until proven guilty. Would that matter? Like, would a jury ever hear that? Which, because I know like he could come in during sentencing and like as like almost like a, asking for a lighter sentence, but could he support her publicly during the trial to where the jury would know?
He can support her publicly as far as in the news and things like that and make these statements, but he would never be allowed to come into the courtroom and vouch for Sarah and her innocence because that's invading the province of the jury. That's a decision the jury has to make. No witness can come into court and say, I believe she's innocent. The judge would shut that down. The judge will likely give an order to the jury saying you're not allowed to watch the news, read anything about this case while you're sitting as a juror. So getting that message to them during the trial probably will not happen.
Apparently, the only witness who was in the house was the younger sister, who I think is like 6 years old or was 6 years old when this happened, so is still very young. In situations like that, do they actually make someone that young testify?
Oh, yes. She will most likely testify.
Like a little girl would have to go up on the witness stand?
Yes, as long as she can qualify for competency, which, a 5, 6-year-old can, the competency questions are pretty basic. It's can they, the witness, child, understand the difference between right and wrong, the difference between truth and a lie? And either the judge or the prosecutor, outside the presence of the jury, will ask those questions to establish that the child who's about to testify basically understands the oath that they're taking to tell the truth. That's it. And if the judge is satisfied that the child understands that concept, yes, the child will be expected to testify and tell the jury the truth of what she saw, heard, even maybe what Sarah Grace said to her, all of these potential things.
Is there any way just to spare her that emotional turmoil to just like use the police interview that was done, or do they actually have to testify?
So in California, there is a thing called a forensic interview that if a child's under the age of 14, you can just play the interview, but the child still has to get on the stand and answer some basic questions for the jury, such as your name, your date of birth. If it were me prosecuting, I would not play the video. I would put the child on the stand.
You would.
I would. Hmm. I mean, if my position as the prosecutor is that Sarah Grace committed these murders with premeditation and deliberation, and I have to prove Sarah's intent, I'm not going to hold back. I'm going to put out all the evidence and let the jury decide the truth. And that would require the best evidence, which would be the live child, unfortunately.
Is there some risk in that though? Because when you have a child that young, you really can't control what they're going to say or them just blurting something out outside the scope of what's allowed. Like, what if, I miss my sister or, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
could it almost backfire?
I mean, that's a very good point. Could it? Yes, but every witness in a trial could backfire. And what you would have is the video of what the child said back when she was 5, 6 years old when the murder happened to impeach her with. If she blurts out, I miss my sister, I think that's great. I mean, the judge will give an admonishment to the jury that they cannot consider the little girl missing her sister as evidence of guilt or not guilt for Sarah Grace. So there's ways to remedy it.
Could the prosecution make their motive that she wanted the attention
Absolutely.
and use all
Absolutely.
of that
Especially with the
evidence?
TikTok. Hmm.
Yeah.
For sure.
It does seem like a stretch though, maybe, like you said, to kill your own biological mom.
Yeah, that's what I can't get past in this case. I can understand maybe the stepfather and all the dynamics that come with, remarriages and integrating, families, but to kill your biological mom, that's the next level. There's something there I feel like we don't know about this case.
Do you think the grandpa in him standing by Sarah Grace and saying also that she's not a danger to the community, um, does that indicate maybe he knows something that's going to come out?
It absolutely begs the question, right? It does seem that he's standing with Sarah Grace because he knows something we all don't know. I mean, this was his daughter who was murdered. And the fact that he's standing by his granddaughter saying she's not a danger and I'm not worried about her being a risk to anybody else in the community, it kind of points to the fact that maybe he knows the truth. He knows the story of what's happened to Sarah Grace. He's known whatever's been happening with mom and stepdad. And he knows she's not a danger to the community because the targets were mom and stepdad because of whatever abuse or whatever horrific thing was happening directly, intimately with that relationship and nobody else in the world. So the fact that he is supporting her, I think, speaks volumes as to what's going on behind the scenes with that family.
Are you surprised because she was fighting to try to get her a bond, and which the judge said, I think the judge was concerned about witness tampering, especially with the younger sister. She's been in jail. I mean, do you think that was the right move?
I don't know. I mean, I think anytime that there's a double homicide involved, I think judges have to take it serious, and their default is going to be don't let them out of custody for flight risks, for witness intimidation, for other potential, violent crimes to occur. All of that's going to fall back on the judge if he gives Sarah a bail to post. But on the flip side, she's still a teenager. And if she's got grandfather vouching for her that he would let her stay there, be on house arrest or whatever the terms would be, I don't know. I think it's kind of harsh to keep a 17-year-old in custody. But then again, it's a double homicide. So I think the judge probably made the right call and did what most judges would do, which is keep her in custody.